Good morning, everybody. And it is Motivational Monday, or whatever I decide to call it. At this point, I just know that this topic's about motivation and how to, bring it about in your life. I used to be a hard believer in motivation just wasn't something that you could make. It was just something you had to deal with, because there's always people asking that big question to people at Q&As and everywhere in the fitness community. It's like a well-hidden secret. Like, where do you get motivation from? And I always just said, like, no, there's no secret to motivation. You just have to do things even when you don't want to, which is still true. Don't get me wrong. But even thinking about it and how I was going to talk about it, I ended up devising a not bad scenario about it. So join me this morning while I watch the beautiful sunrise come about and talk about how to use motivation to your advantage, how to bring it about, how to use it, what happens when you don't have it, and all of that fun free-filled jazz. Motivation comes with discipline. This originally was going to be a discipline talk, but as I picked it apart more, I realized that it really was primarily about motivation. And that's what everyone wants to know about, right? It's not just discipline. Nobody wants to know about discipline. Are you kidding me? Self-discipline? No, it's about motivation. First, we're going to go ahead and find your baseline, because motivation, I see motivation as like a sine wave. It's going to have ups and downs all the way across. I would say your baseline, like 0 would be your meh, like you're not motivated, but you're not unmotivated. It comes and goes. You'll have times where it's way up, it's a positive 10, and then you'll have days where it's absolute negative 10. Because we're going on a negative 10 to 0 to positive 10 scale, and we're going to use that in a moment here. First, we have to determine your motivation stamina, and that's going to be determined by what you do every day. How much time do you spend doing things, and how much time do you spend at rest? Some people are going to be a lot more motivationally inclined. The more reason you have to do something, the better your stamina is going to be to do that thing. If you have more of a sedentary lifestyle, your motivation is probably going to start off a bit lower than somebody who's already leading a pretty active, busy lifestyle. I don't mean just active in terms of going to the gym and exercising. I mean active as in, how much do you read? How much are you putting toward dreams and aspirations? How much are you working? Is your job active? Do you walk a lot? Do you play a lot? And if you lead more of a sedentary lifestyle, you might spend extra time sleeping, recreational eating. You could spend more time on your phone or watching TV. And if you're more used to doing those things, I'm going to say motivation might not come to you as easily. Another thing to keep in mind is your emotional stamina as well, because a lot of people tend to spend a lot of energy on what they're thinking about, what they're talking about, what they're, what's on their mind day to day. So if you worry a lot, if you're an anxious individual, and then your thoughts, if they're external to yourself, because you are going to be sending energy wherever you're thinking about. And if you aren't thinking about yourself and how awesome you are from time to time, you're gonna just be constantly sending your energy everywhere else outside of yourself. You're not even going to be feeding into yourself at all. And I highly recommend doing that in the future, making that a thing, because that's where a lot of people's energy expenditure is, what they're thinking about, and all that energy, where it's going. You're sending it somewhere else outside of yourself. And if you're just creating negative energy and then sending it back to yourself too, it needs to stop. It's a total waste of time and energy. I would say motivation comes very strongly from your compliance with something, right? You set a goal in mind to reach something, to achieve something, and the less you manage to achieve it, the lower your compliance is, the more likely you are to slip up in the future. And that's often what makes motivation so difficult, because as we, at least for me, and I'm sure there's lots of other people out there who feel the same way, when you do well, you start getting on a roll. And so you feel motivated, you keep going, you're going strong, and then you slip up. And then as you slip up, you start feeling bad about it. You're like, oh man, I could have done better than that. And you start going down, and I would say the best way to keep motivation going is recognizing that downward turn and finding a way to bring it back up again, if at all possible. Because for me, when I start falling and the lower I get down, the harder and harder it gets to come back up. You can give yourself little wins in the beginning to help like that upward turn. But as soon as you allow yourself a break, you're gonna allow that trough to build. You're gonna dig way down, and then you're gonna finally feel so bad about being so far down that you either give up completely, or then you start picking up, and then it's just harder to get that upward turn. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and objects that are still tend to sit still. It takes more energy to reset that momentum and cause a big change. When you allow it to just dive, it's even harder to get back up again. But it's all part of the process. So if you do that, that's fine. Just pick up and keep going. But we do want to try and get that wave, ride that wave for sure. The better you are at doing that, the better and easier it is in the future to do it again. With our idea of what our stamina is, we can then make a plan. And we're going to make that plan day to day. So there's going to be different parts of the day that you're going to feel more motivated than others. And I want you to pay attention to that. If you are going to map out your motivation day to day, we're going to use that 0 to positive 10 or negative 10 scale. Like, just pick. I want you to pick a thing that you want to accomplish, and then pick a time of day. And we're going to rate it from 0, which is not motivated, not unmotivated, to positive 10, which is absolutely motivated. I have to do it this moment right now. I cannot wait, to negative 10, which is I don't want to do this under any circumstance. Am I going to do this? And each day I want you to rate your motivation for that thing. And you'll probably recognize a pattern. If it's a week, if it's a month, if it's a year, you're going to notice a pattern. And even for me, day to day, there's a pattern for each day. So I know that in the morning when I wake up, I'm motivated to get out of bed in the morning. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up. I'm going to do this. I want to do this. I feel great. This is how the day is going to go. And I'm off to the races. I will get out of bed and I'll make breakfast and I'll start doing stuff. But then in my head, I have another schedule that I usually follow. And it may not be as compliant to what I wanted in the beginning. And after a couple hours, that motivation melts away and it's time to get up and go to the gym or do this thing. And you know what? I got comfortable. I've been taking care of the house, cleaning, taking care of pets, family, talking to friends, anything. You name it, it'll come up. And because I lost that momentum, my motivation might have gone from like a 6 in the morning when I was in bed to like a -3. And it's a lot harder for me to get up and do that thing that I needed to do, which is usually, in this example, going to the gym. And the chances of it getting done are just not as high. Whereas if I would have just gotten dressed right away in the morning, ate some breakfast, and went straight to the gym, I probably would have gotten it done and I would have felt really, really good about it instead of having to fight myself later in the day to get up and go. And the reason I like going later in the day, it's namely around noon, is because it lines up with my eating schedule as well as my anxiety schedule, because going to the gym early in the morning and in the afternoon is busy. So it's taxing for me to go at that time. But your day is probably going to have a very similar example. You're gonna have times where you're like, yeah, let's do this right now. And times where you're like, there's under no circumstance am I willing to do this. And you're gonna have to make a trade-off here and there in order to establish an agreement with yourself. And momentum, you need to gain that momentum, because especially if it's something new to you. If you are not used to going to the gym and you're trying to get to the gym 5 days a week, you should probably get used to going 2 times a week first. Because if you start going 5 days and then the next week you go 1 day, you're going to feel really crappy about it. And like I said, that motivation is going to start taking a dive. And then the chances of you going back are a lot less. You need to set realistic goals in the beginning that more align with what you are capable of doing and your lifestyle, especially. I'm getting, I don't know, it's been a while, so I'm pretty accustomed to doing a lot of work, like my 2 jobs and going to the gym 5 days a week. But I'll tell you what, I definitely hit those downturns. Like this week, I'm starting that momentum up again. I'm starting with going from work to the gym for some cardio, and then tomorrow I'm gonna hit weights and cardio. But it's after the holidays, I got sick during the holidays, so I'm picking up that momentum again. It's been a while since I've been to the gym, so it's been easy for me to prolong that time from the gym. It's time to get back on and keep going. So you can map out a plan from day to day, or through the week, or through a month. I recommend you pick your thing and then start on it right away, because then it's easier to figure out where your weaknesses and strengths are, as opposed to being like, oh, I think I'm going to be motivated here and not there, and then try to piece it around. I think you should just start right away. That's my motto, is if you want to do something, just start doing it. Like now, like yesterday. Like you should just go. It doesn't even, stop trying to plan things and do it. And your plan is going to change. It's allowed to change. You're going to be, we're working on this, right? It's a work in progress. Nothing's going to be perfect. And it's an everyday, all the time thing. We're going every moment to moment, second to second, day to day. And your goals can change. That's perfectly fine. But I caution you, if you're picking up something, please don't just drop it unless you've picked up something new. And as you're setting your thing up, I want you to know that there is help. And that's going to be supplementation. Now take this with a grain of salt, because like with working out, you don't need supplementation, but it can help if you know how to use it. So the less natural ways are things like pre-workout and caffeine. Things that you can take that will help boost your energy so that you feel more like up and going. Like pre-workout's cool because it hits you. It's such a strong sensation of caffeine that you take it and you know you need to burn that energy off like now. Caffeine, lots of people, I can't say everyone, not even me, but a lot of people start off their day with a cup of coffee because that's what gets them going. It's a mental cue to get the day started, to start doing stuff. And if that's what helps you get out of bed and get going, then right on. But I would recommend more natural ways if you can get away with it, because after a while you kind of become dependent on caffeine and pre-workout, which is primarily caffeine and sugar. And it's just best to avoid that dependency. But if it helps you, like in the prep world or in the competition world, pre-workout and caffeine become a huge crutch to people to make it through to the end, which I think is perfectly fine because they've made it so far, they can use it. And if you're just starting out, that's the same thing. I used to use pre-workout all the time. That's how I know that it's a great supplement, because it helped me. But do I use it today? No. Will I someday? Probably, because when I need that extra boost, it'll help me. But for right now, it's just not something that I feel the need to have. I don't like being all jittery like that. I like coming to terms with what I need to do on my own, because I'm still facing a lot of anxiety, and maybe you are too. And sometimes I'd find that pre-workout would escalate that, but just try it and give it a shot and see. Draw your own conclusion, man. Ask some questions. the natural forms of energetic boosts are things like music. I know that my body is pretty much programmed that as soon as I turn on a certain station on my Pandora, it kind of puts me in a mood. Like, if I'm at the gym and I'm dressed and I start listening to it, it'll kind of ease me into the process. I can start warming up, and then it's like, all right, well, now we're into this, here we go. There's no more questioning whether or not it's going to happen. It's more so, how long is it going to take to get it done? And then energetic cues and boosts, other things, like just like how the music was for me, or how that coffee is for people in the morning. There's a mental association with that action that helps energize you. And you can do this with any kind of sound, visual aid, picture. You could use, if you're doing the gym, you could use workout motivation. I know YouTube has a lot of them. I don't really watch them myself, but I see them pop up occasionally, and it's motivation for you to get moving, get your stuff done. You can make your own if you like making videos and stuff. Yeah, find things that motivate you and make a freaking montage. It's a great idea, and I can't, like, getting pumped to go to work is something that I like to do because it just helps set the tone. Instead of letting life set a tone for you to match, it's always better for you to set your own tone and go into something that way. Because then you feel more in control, you feel more comfortable and relaxed with something. Instead of allowing life to, like, you to ride the wave of life, you are the wave. You can create that momentum for yourself and pick where you're going. But all right, guys, that is my talk on how to increase your motivation, or how to stay motivated, because it's truly something that a lot of people struggle with every day. You're never going to stop struggling with it, but you can make it easier, and you can have a couple tricks up your sleeve to help ease into getting where you want to go. If you are lacking in motivation, you also want to be looking at your baseline health. So are you getting enough sleep, which is, I'd say the standard is 8 hours at least, and drinking enough water and getting enough food, because I know there are some people who struggle with not eating enough. And then if you're eating too much food, because that can make you feel lethargic and tired as well. So look at vitamins and minerals are also important, especially if you've been in a deficit for a while, or even just starting. Don't worry about, or don't forget about your health. Getting enough sunshine. Getting up and walking is a great transition into becoming more active when you're not very active. All of these things really add up over time, because if you are well rested, well fueled, and your priorities are straight, you will notice that your motivation will be a lot easier to work with, because you're not working against your body and yourself. Try to find things that inspire you, like somebody that, depending on your goal, try to find somebody who aligns with what you would like to also be reflected in yourself, because those people are great for inspiration. If you like to read, make sure that what you're reading energizes you and isn't boring, isn't hard to read. I know that if somebody's used to reading a lot, that it can be easy to just fall into reading something that's kind of meh, but try to up your standard and find things that you love instead of just like. More on emotional cues. If you're trying to be motivated about doing something, it's best that you start imagining yourself liking that thing that you're trying to do. Because I know that a lot of people will fall into this pattern of talking badly about the thing that they, are trying to do but aren't so good at doing. So we want to try and realign our mental priorities here. If you want to get better at doing something, you gotta see yourself being good at it, okay? Think about how much you love doing it, because you want that mental association of enjoyment with that thing that you're doing, or you're just going to be working against yourself. I know that can sound super simple, and people can roll their eyes at how simple that is, but really it makes a huge difference over time. It might not be a huge difference in the beginning, but it'll build. Trust me, it'll build. We want those endorphins flowing at the simple thought of doing the thing that you're trying to do. If you liked it, leave a comment if you have suggestions. I love more information about anything and everything. Leave it down below in the comments. Subscribe if you're interested in hearing more, because I'm full of it. I've got a whole list of things that I'm going to be talking about. I want to pump out up to 3 videos in a week, all centered on different topics. I'm all about the trilogy, which is the body, mind, and spirit. They all need to be catered to. They complement each other hardcore. And this is one of those topics that really just touched on all 3, because you can use each one interchangeably to help create this emotion in your life. Or is motivated an emotion? Maybe I'm onto something here. But the sun's almost up, and I gotta get to the gym. So I'll also be doing my weekly recap. If you're interested in that, I'll put a card. But thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and I hope that these tips help you, and I hope to see you again later. All right, thank you. Bye.